Buonasera ragazzi, calling in from Italy today. We'll be here for the next couple of months. We've got the Bitcoin update following yesterday's video where we look specifically at the Bitcoin pattern that has happened 3 times in this bear market and has caused crypto to crash after that point. So we're looking at macro and medium term and short term stuff. So there's a lot to wrap your head around. So stick with us, subscribe, like if you haven't already. And of course, leave us the comments. I'm reading those down below. I've got the new microphone on today because you guys said there was a few issues with the other one. So let's see how this one turns out today. Anywho, Bitcoin and the rejection that we just saw. This is exactly what has happened the last few times. Now, I'm putting these videos out before this happens. And of course, there's no guarantees that it happens. But the point is, if we're trying to trade this, or at least understand what's happening in the market before the news understands, because the news and the media and any of those channels and outlets that are giving you headlines about jargon are really noise. That's how I trade, that's how I invest. I've been doing that for 16 years. That stuff is basically garbage if I need to make a decision for any sort of trading or investing that I'm doing. But they're good headlines. It's fun to read sometimes. Sometimes people don't have anything else to talk about. And of course, we turn to the news headlines because they do make a good one. Point being, this is what we were looking at yesterday. We did get rejected. Looking at the daily here, you can see just how close we were to getting above the 22K level that we really wanted. We got the close in at 21,582. You can see how really close these markets are working towards these exact numbers here. So this was the peak, and we looked at that because of the swings. So it's the drop and then the first bounce out of the crash. What price does that bar come to? So thanks to you guys as well, just mentioning about the teaching here. This is the important part for me. Like, you got to learn how to do this. You can listen to me babble on, but just learning how to do it, I think, is the best way. Rejected the close. It just amazes me how close it gets to these prices and then gets rejected. So far, it's been rejected, but we're still in an uptrend. The swing here, our Gann swing indicator, we're still up. Sure, we can get a higher low, and I wouldn't want to see it come any lower than about 20,500. Even though it has been rejected, there's still hope that we can move up from this point. So what I'm looking at here is the move down, and why I've picked these levels is because it comes in at the highs of some of these bars that the market had tested before and then rejected at. But more importantly, it's one of our 50% levels, 20,600, and then just to the bottom of this entire run, 20,546. So remember what we looked at in yesterday's video, so this big one right here. We're looking at a retest, and what we don't want to see, the weakness would be coming to the underside of the level that has been rejected already. So even if that happens, there's still one more hope that we hold up yet again and then start to push to higher prices. So the negative, or I guess the bearish scenario here, is if we fall, support comes in at 20.5, we get rejected at 21.7, and then we break through those levels. That's obviously the bearish side, and that is a little bit of an early warning sign that this is much, much weaker if that happens than waiting for these next lows to get taken out. So we definitely want to see Bitcoin remain between 20.5 and 21,700 until we can break through and take on 22 again. We don't want to see it break down from 20,500. And the worst case scenario is if it does, then that's basically our last final saving grace, 18,600. And the best case would be where the bars opened and closed. And that's roughly $19,200. Okay, so that's what we're looking for here. At the moment, the bulls are still holding their ground, even though they've just been rejected again. If you're coming in and you hadn't seen that video, definitely go and watch it to learn what it is we're looking at here and what happened over the last 3 occasions in this bear market that caused Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies to dump. And the last time this happened, we dumped from that high to that low 44.6%. So you got the bounce. The market could not regain the first bounce's price. So that's right here. Rejection. Underside rejection, we don't want to see that. That's what could potentially come up next. So let's get rid of a few of these things so you can see what's going on here. 22 is our key level. You can see that this pattern could potentially play out again. So we're going to cover that hopefully in the next few days. Remember, we were covering the time frames as well. It was approximately 17-ish days, give or take, of course. There's no exacts here, but we just need to read what's happening next. That close underneath so far, not the greatest. The last time it happened, you can see back here as well, this had a little bit more of a push to the bullish side, failed, and then rejected. So if I wanted to use something more extreme in the titles, you know, just to trigger those last few people who are just enjoying the clickbait titles, 47.4% was the last crash from that point. And let's see if we can find an even bigger crash, just to give the title something more. To this low is only 36. So I'm going to stick it with about 44% crash, okay? So the last few times they've definitely had a significant crash. All right, so if we're measuring from that level, where did this 46, we had 36 to about 47% crash come in. So from the peak, we didn't measure, it was the lower top that we measured from, but let's use the peak. 44% down, I'm going to need to do this. 44% down is going to bring us in at approximately $12,000. Now, if it was only a 36% drop, that's going to bring us out to about 13,800. Now, I'm measuring it from the rejection level, because like we saw in the previous attempts, it got rejected and then fell, and I measured it from those tops. You can see that we got rejected, and look, I'll use one of these highs to the low. That's approximately 46%. So it's basically from that resistance line. And so if we did get that 36 from that current resistance line level, that brings us out at 13,800, which is also a great number, because if you guys were around in 2019, you'll remember exactly what that number is about. And that was the previous high before the market went sideways. From memory, it was about 15 or so months. That was that extreme peak that we had. So if the market was to come down to that point, that's a pretty beautiful balance within Bitcoin. I know people are going to get very, very scared. It's gone from 21.5 to 13.5-ish level. I'm not saying it's going to get there. This guy on the internet's not saying it has to do that, but you can see the similarities and the symmetry in those prices. If we were to get rejected at these particular areas, you can see them marked on the chart here, 1, 2, 3. If this happened to be the fourth time, if we happen to get a very similar crash, 36 to 46-ish%, it comes out at those nice sweet levels. That did of course take time. I'm not saying it's going to happen tomorrow or next week. This does take some time, and over that period, it could take several weeks, maybe even a couple of months. What happens if it doesn't happen and we go on this crypto bull run that everyone's talking about? We get this little bit of an altcoin pump. Well, to the upside, definitely got to hold 20.5. We're looking for that. We've gone through that at the moment. Push to the upside, 24.5 is my next major level. Of course, there are going to be some resistance levels on the way. This market has been crushed. The buyers are not in a good state, even if they are winning slowly. We can see that on the chart. They are starting to climb their way out of it. The sellers, you have to give it to the sellers, especially in a macro sense, because the trend in a macro sense, come to the weekly, to the monthly, the trend is still down. See those massive swings? The trend is still down. So you've got to give the macro to the bears at the moment until they can swing this thing back around, probably get above 34.5 and then put in a higher low. So for now, the macro still bearish, but at least in the short term, we are still with hope to the upside to then give us a little bit of a push to the upside for the alts. And speaking of alts, just using Solana, this is kind of going across the board for a lot of alts, but just using Solana as the proxy here, I'm on the 4-hour. This was the 50% level that we were watching just in the last couple of videos. The market has broken through, and you can see again how beautifully the Gann analysis works. 50%, $36.86, a call of 37 for a round number. There was a rejection, fallback, tempted again, fallback. We ran up to $40 even, got rejected, came back and sat on the 50%. Now, of course, it did overshoot it just a little bit. That's okay. This is what happens in markets, is to give you some rough ideas, but it did hold up just higher than the previous low, and the closes for the 4-hour bars were above that resistance level. So that's a good sign, at least in the short term, and you can see from that point the market has held up above it. If it was starting to close underneath it, you'd probably expect it to fall a lot quicker than it has done. To the bearish side of Solana, the highs are still getting lower. That's a little bit of a concern. Obviously, I don't want to see it break down from about 37.80, and of course, that 36.80-ish level, 36.50, that would obviously mean a lot more downside because we still have not run the $43 level yet for Solana. So yesterday, we looked at all of the crashes that have happened. Ideally, we don't want to see that again, but I thought it was a really good point to bring to our attention, especially because of what's happened in the past. Go through some of the form reading, the tape reading, and thanks to your comments as well. I know you're enjoying that. Just looking at it in terms of learning what is happening from the buyers and the sellers, what actually goes on in real time, rather than the late news headlines, which are basically noise, a bit of fun. I'm not going to lay into it too much more. For the dominance, we were in a bit of a Bitcoin season, and now we've pulled back. But I like this chart just a little bit better to give us an idea that Bitcoin's dominance has broken out of this sideways choppy range and is now coming back to test those previous highs, because this doesn't include the stable coins, whereas this chart does include the stable coins, which shows us still back in this churny, choppy sideways range. As for the overall market caps, still under the trillion, Ethereum 1200, and you can see the strength of the market still lying with the bears. Just some more signals here: USDC in the top 5, Tether in the top 5, Binance USD coin top 6, and that basically rounds out the top 5. Well, you got 6 of these. One of them is Binance. 3 of them are stable coins. People are still very, very much risk off. Therefore, if you are trading, I'd be looking to take profits rather quickly, because the energy to the bulls, I don't think is there yet, especially like what we saw in 2021. There are a lot of people getting excited and hoping for the best, but I still think alts have got a long way to crash. Thanks to the other commenters saying that Bitcoin is just getting so boring to talk about Bitcoin all the time. Just want to hear something about degen alts and just tell us that they're all shit. Okay, there you go to I think it was Wargasm. They're all shit. I've said it again. Alts, I'm still not there yet for dollar cost averaging into these things longer term, or even just trading them on massive breakout trades. But shorter term, I think so, but I'd be taking profits a lot sooner. Speaking of taking profits, keep yourself safe out there, have a plan, and of course, check out Bybit if you want those bigger sign-up bonuses. I think these guys, at the moment, the way that they are going, are the dominant force in exchanges. Yes, I've said it. I remember seeing this from Binance in 2017 into 2018, and of course, the rest is history from Binance. Binance came out of nowhere, and they are working very much like that. They've got a beautiful, clean platform. No KYC if you care about your privacy. Otherwise, give away all your details to everyone else out there. But there's still no KYC on Bybit for a lot of users. So go and check it out. Link in the top of the video description for $4,450 sign-up bonuses. Do those good things of likes and subscribes. Let me know your thoughts about the microphone as well. I'll see you guys at the next video. Until then, arrivederci.